Your mother died as a child. Your children died. Then you were killed. Your life was a death list. You're born in a one-room log cabin in Kentucky in 1809. Congratulations, you've just entered the world as the son of Thomas Lincoln, a poor farmer who's constantly struggling just to survive. Your childhood won't be about toys or formal education. It'll be about survival, hard work, and learning that death is a frequent visitor who never stays away for long. Your mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, is one of the few sources of warmth in your early life. She tells you stories, teaches you to read from the Bible, and makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, you could be something more than a poor farmer someday. She's the light in a world that's otherwise pretty dark and hopeless. But when you're 9 years old, your mother gets sick with what they call milk sickness. It's a horrible condition caused by cattle eating poisonous plants, and there's no cure in 1818. You watch your mother, the person you love most in the world, slowly waste away until she finally dies in agony. Her death marks you in ways you don't fully understand at the time. It's your first real lesson in how unfair and cruel life can be. No matter how much you love someone, no matter what a good person they are, death can snatch them away for no reason at all. This lesson will stay with you for the rest of your life. Your father remarries Sarah Bush Johnston, who turns out to be a decent stepmother. But the damage is already done. You've learned that love comes with a guarantee of pain, and that getting too attached to people is an invitation to suffering. Formal education is a luxury your family can't afford. You attend school for a total of maybe 1 year in your entire childhood, but that doesn't stop you. You have a voracious hunger for knowledge that goes far beyond what your environment can provide. You read everything you can get your hands on: the Bible, Aesop's fables, Pilgrim's Progress. By age 22, your sister Sarah dies in childbirth. Another death, another loss to add to the collection that's building up in your heart. You're starting to develop what people in your time call melancholy, what we'd recognize today as severe depression. Your depression isn't just occasional sadness. It's debilitating episodes where you feel completely hopeless about the future. Your friends worry you might harm yourself. There are times when you seriously contemplate suicide because the weight of existence feels too heavy to bear. You move to Springfield, Illinois, and start studying law. It's here that you meet Mary Todd, a woman from a well-to-do family who's just as psychologically complicated as you are. Your relationship is tempestuous from the start. Fights, reconciliations, more fights. You even break off the engagement once before finally marrying in 1842. Mary has her own mental health issues that become more pronounced over time. She has severe mood swings, explosive anger, and what appear to be occasional psychotic episodes. Your marriage becomes a constant cycle of conflict and tension that exacerbates your own depression. You have 4 children with Mary: Robert, Eddie, Willie, and Tad. They should be sources of joy in your life, and they are, but they also become sources of unimaginable pain. Eddie dies at age 4 from tuberculosis. Willie dies at 11, probably from typhoid fever, while you're living in the White House. Tad will die just a few years after your own death. Every child's death is like a knife to the heart. Mary becomes more unstable with each loss, which means you're not only dealing with your own grief, but also trying to hold your family together while your wife crumbles psychologically. Your political career advances, but each level of success brings new burdens. When you become president in 1861, you inherit a country that's literally tearing itself apart. Southern states are seceding, and it's clear that war is inevitable. The civil war you preside over isn't just a political conflict, it's a massive human tragedy. Over 700,000 Americans will die during your presidency. Every battle, every casualty list, every strategic decision you make results in more death. The weight of those lives is constantly on your shoulders. Your generals come to you with reports from battles where thousands died in a single day. You have to make decisions about whether to send more troops, knowing that every soldier you deploy might not come home. It's a psychological burden that few humans could bear, and your depression becomes even more severe. During cabinet meetings, you sometimes fall into long silences, lost in what your colleagues describe as deep melancholy. There are days when you can barely function, but the country needs leadership, so you force yourself to carry on. In 1863, you issue the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing slaves in the rebellious states. It's a moment of moral triumph, the realization of principles you've believed in for a long time. But it also means you now have even more enemies who want you dead. Death threats become constant. Your security detail is constantly worried about your safety, but you often seem strangely resigned to your fate. Maybe after a lifetime surrounded by death, the prospect of your own death doesn't feel so frightening. The war finally comes to an end in April 1865. Robert E. Lee surrenders, and for the first time in 4 years, it looks like peace might be possible. You should feel triumphant. You've preserved the Union, you've freed the slaves, you've guided the country through its greatest crisis. But even in victory, you're exhausted beyond what words can describe. 4 years of war, constant personal loss, and the weight of hundreds of thousands of deaths have taken their toll. You look years older than your actual age, and those close to you notice that you seem almost ghostly. On April 14th, 1865, 5 days after Lee surrendered, you decide to go to Ford's Theatre with Mary to see a play. It's a rare night of relaxation, a chance to enjoy something normal after years of crisis. It should be a celebration. Instead, John Wilkes Booth, an actor and Confederate sympathizer, enters your box and shoots you in the back of the head. It's deeply ironic. Just when you've finally achieved the peace you've been fighting to achieve, when the dying has finally stopped, your own death arrives. You die the next morning, April 15th, never regaining consciousness. Your last day on Earth was a day of celebrating peace, but you never got to see the country you helped create flourish in that peace. Mary will live another 17 years after your death, but she never fully recovers from the loss. She becomes increasingly erratic and paranoid, eventually being briefly committed to an asylum. Even in death, you can't escape the pain your loss causes those you love. Your oldest son, Robert, will live with the trauma of your assassination and his mother's mental illness for the rest of his life. The family you tried so hard to protect and provide for is permanently scarred by the violence that claimed you. The irony of your life is profound. You saved a nation, but couldn't save your own family from tragedy. You freed millions from bondage, but couldn't free yourself from the prison of depression and loss that surrounded you from childhood. At the end of the day, you saved a nation, freed an entire people from slavery, and preserved democratic principles for future generations. But the personal cost was extraordinary. A life marked by constant loss, severe depression, and the burden of decisions that resulted in massive death. Your story is that of a man who became a legend, precisely because he was able to function despite nearly unbearable psychological pain. You transformed your own suffering into empathy for others who suffered, your own experience with loss into determination to prevent others from experiencing the same injustice. You were born in absolute poverty and died at the pinnacle of power, but your entire life was marked by the shadow of death. You saved everyone except yourself, and maybe that's the greatest tragedy of all. It sucked to be born Abraham Lincoln, not because of the poverty or the lack of formal education, but because you were marked for a life of service that would cost you everything personal and precious. The greatest president in American history was also one of its most tortured souls. Friends, what tragic historical figure would you like us to explore in the next video? Comment below with your detailed thoughts and don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep diving deep into the psychology behind the legends.